Now we've made a couple decisions here as we got close to this edge. Remember how we were talking about that the floor isn't square, and this is kind of normal in any kind of building situation. And we bought the transition that goes between the carpet and the flooring. Now, as you can see from this little piece that I cut off, we will be wide enough to bridge that all the way over and then come back over on this end and cut it in to match there. Now, instead of taking this molding all the way off, as you can see, what I did was I just loosened it from the wall because we don't know how much we have to cut off the bottom, and this way it stays in unity. What we'll do is tap these nails back in after we saw off the bottom, put the molding on, and determine how much we have to cut off. The other suggestion, or the other thought that we had, was since the rest of the house has the matching molding going around, we're going to buy the molding strips for here and around there, rather than trying to use the white molding over it. We're going to start assembling the wax ring into the toilet housing bell here. And of course, the first thing we have to remember is take the rag out, because otherwise we'll have an overflow. Here are our new bolts, and remember we talked about the flat place going in and underneath and then walking in place. And these newer ones, I'd forgotten this, they have this little plastic washer so that once you put them in, you slide this down and it holds it in place. But I also like to put a little extra wax around there. That's just old me and making me feel comfortable. So I'm going to dig a little wax out of here. Put a little wax around the bottom. Take and slide it in. And then take my little, I'll show you in a second here what I'm doing. But that little plastic ring will go down and seat against the toilet bell there. You see that? That kind of just holds it in place. And that's exactly what we need to do, is hold that guy in place. Get a little more wax for this other side. Again, when we put this in, geez, just make sure, because you end up taking them out, you got to make sure that when you put it in this way, with that little seat, that it stays that way, because if you don't, it'll tend to want to come out. So we want that to be in and straight over that way. Run down the ring to hold it in place. Now I'm going to pull this one out because okay. You see the long way, it stays long. That's what I want. Now the next step is the wax ring. Again, this gets a little yucky, but again, I like to kind of have it in my hand. So I pull that loose, and you take the wax ring. They tell you to put it on the bottom of the toilet. I find that to be a little guessy, so I like to do it this way. Pull off the stuff. Now if you look down in there, you see the wax ring? That keeps it away from the edges of the waste pipe. So that if we do have drippy drips like we had before, they won't be building up on the side of the waste pipe. So we've centered the wax ring right in the center of the toilet area. And when we put it on, we have a bell. Let me bring the toilet back in and I'll show you what I mean. There's a bell opening on the bottom of the toilet. And that will work pretty well as setting that in place. Help self-align it, if you will. The bell housing on the bottom here goes inside the wax ring. And really the best thing to do, I'm going to move one of my screws. There, just bring this one over a little bit. And this is the hard part, because you've kind of got to lift it and get it down on the screws. same time. And let's put it down and see what happens. Okay, I've got the one screw on the one side. The other screw is holding it up, which is a help in this way. And there, we found both screws. Now, the thing we have to do to seat the wax ring is to firmly kind of press and squeeze. Yeah, I'm just kind of using the ring from the toilet, the ring from the wax ring, and because it's wax, we're just kind of making it sit. The next thing we're going to do is check our screws to make sure that they're upright and straight, and that our toilet is parallel back there with the wall. And it's okay to be away for a little bit because that top has to fit on there. The next thing we do is screw it into place. Now here we have to be very, very careful because a toilet is made out of porcelain. And if we put a bolt on too hard, the porcelain will break and then we'll have to buy a new toilet. So here's our little plastic grommet that we put on, and we just, since they didn't supply them, we used the old ones. We have our new washer, which goes on top to take the weight of the nut, and our breast nuts go on top of that. And we screw these down so that they're finger tight for right now. And I'll do the same on the other side. Now, to tighten the bolts, I like to use an adjustable crescent wrench because you have more feel in your hand as you're tightening the bolt. With a pair of vice grips or channel locks, you don't get the feel of how tight it is. So I've tightened that down by hand, and then I just keep tightening this quarter turn at a time. Now I get that so tight, and then I want to come around to the other side because what we're doing is getting this out of level. So I'll tighten the other side some, the same as we've been tightening it. So again, it's starting to get a little firmer as I turn. And I can feel the firmness in my fingers on the wrench. Now I'm going to go back to the other side. The bolts on both sides tightened down, and what we're going to do now is put these caps on. They go on here. Now you'll notice we're way too long and we'll have to cut that off. But primarily what we do is we cut it, remember that line that was on those things? We'll cut off at that line and put those in place.